Hi, I'm Susan Smith. As the Chief Philanthropy and Administrative Officer of Sweetheart Lines International, I invite you to journey with us to Border Lakes Region 2. As we continue our journey to travel in tune, thank you for joining us. We only have a few regions left, so be sure to follow along via the Travel in Tune webpage or the mobile app while you can. Now, tune in to Border Lakes Banter, where we will relive exciting past performances from the Vibe Quartet and Motor City Blend Chorus, as well as Novelty Shop Quartet, who will be sharing their tips and principles of comedy and so much more. Please join me in visiting Region 2, where they are serious about being funny.
Harmony, and we have a special treat for you this morning. And here to welcome our guest is our Quartet Coordinator for Region 2, Tracy Martin.
Good morning, everyone. It's so good to see all your shining faces, and we can fake it through the non-morning people, right? Can't we? We're excited to welcome Novelty Shop to Border Lakes Region 2 Quartet Education Program. Since forming in 2001, Novelty Shop has been laughed at by some of the finest audience in the world. Yes, even Canadians think they're funny. And nothing makes these four formerly serious turned zany regional quartet champions happier than that. If you've ever been to a Novelty Shop audience, you will hear the buzz. Who do you suppose they'll be today? Lawyers? Doctors? Nuns? Ballerinas? Lucy's? Bridesmaids? Hospital patients? And what about the personnel? Will quartet youngster and lead Cindy Gazzetti, the champion lead of harmonics, ever be anything less than perky? Will baritone Susan Spires, the champion lead of Touch of Magic and Accolade, remember all or any of the words? Will tenor Sally Burns, the champion tenor of New Review, find some creative new ways to disguise her pitch pipe? Lynn Pierce, champion bass of Accolade and Surefire, be able to keep the others in line? Here are the answers. Not yet, but there is still hope. Probably not. Well, maybe. Not a chance. They let us figure out the order. After 20 years of laughter and looniness, and that is just at the rehearsals, we believe these four ladies are uniquely suited to share some tips and tricks for being funny. Please help me welcome Novelty Shop.
We are ready for contestant number 2. From the Battle Creek chapter, Motor City Blend chapter, Shoreline Sound chapter, and performing in the open division, Novelty Shop.
My mother used to say, fabrications never pay. But I went away to law school anyway. So tell me, how could you believe me when I said to trust me when you know I've been a lawyer all my life? I planned this occupation since I was a youth. You must have been insane to think I'd tell you the truth. How could you believe me saying not to worry when the last guy I defended's doing life? I know I said you do no time, but who would think that you would go for that old line? How could you believe me when I said to trust me when you know I've been a lawyer? Good for nothing lawyer all my litigating life. Remember I said that your case was strong. I'd prove that you'd done no wrong. and I wouldn't charge a fee. Tee-hee. Oh, Buster, you must be loony to trust a lower than low attorney like me. So, buddy, listen to me tell ya, I got all my schooling down in old Havana, where I learned to fool the polygraph exam. What a scam! My last 2 years in college, I had to repeat. I finally graduated by learning to cheat. I'm the world's greatest cheater, buddy. How I wish this case had never come to trial, 'cause I've never been inside a court before. Where's the door? To think I swore we'd strike a deal. But mister, let us not forget that we can appeal. I don't know how you could believe me when I said to trust me, when you know I've been a lawyer, real expensive lawyer, good for nothing lawyer, dirty rotten lawyer, all my low down fabricating, better pay up, we're litigating, good for nothing lying life. How could you believe me when you know I've been a lawyer all my life, justifying all my life?
There we go. Can y'all hear me and see me? Can you see my slides?
Yes,
Good. That's the important thing. Great. So we are really delighted to be here today. We are flattered. Of course, we are honored to be here. That set you just saw was one that we originally did in 2002, which seems like a long time ago. We had a good chance of reviving that for an open division set in 2019. But the other really cool thing about being here today, not only seeing all your beautiful faces of our friends in Region 2, it gave us the opportunity to remember whether we still remembered how to put on mascara. So it has been, it's been about a year. So, gosh, let's see here. Whoop, here we go. So these questions, where do you get your ideas? How do you write your parodies? We hear them a lot when people see us perform. And truthfully, the answer is we really have no idea. You know, when we were asked to create this program, it's sort of like a math question. Sometimes you get to the right answer, but you don't always really know how you get there. So we've had to go back and think about kind of what our informal process turned into, kind of more of a formal process over the 20 years that we've been together creating packages that have amused our audiences and amused us as well in the process. And so we think we have kind of figured it out, and we're really happy to present that to you today so that it doesn't take you 20 years to figure out how to be funny. We'll look at our learning objectives today. Upon completion, you will be able to describe the principles of creating comedy, discuss strategies to develop a concept, theme, and package that will be funny, apply step-by-step plans and practices to identify and locate songs, create parody lyrics, write dialogue, and characterization, costumes, staging, and visuals. Now, we do have a handout which has all of the content that we're presenting today. That handout is ready. I think it can be certainly made available to you. So you don't necessarily have to take any notes because that'll be there for you. I also want to encourage you to, even though we have some time set at the end for answering questions, if you have some that you feel like you need to ask right away because you won't really understand going into the next segment what we're talking about, please feel free to raise your hand either through the Zoom thing at the bottom where it has reactions. Raise your hand or raise your hand physically, or write a question in the chat, and we'll be monitoring that. So the content we're going to cover today, Novelty Shop's Principles of Comedy. That's kind of a disclaimer because, again, we're not experts on creating and performing comedy, but these are the principles of comedy that have worked for us. Identifying and developing the subject, scenario, setting, and story, packaging the performance and the performance itself, managing the logistics and laughter, and adding humor to a non-comedy performance. Does that sound good for today? Good. All righty, I'm going to pass the ball over to Susan.
Okay, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Everything okay? Great. You know, we want to talk about Novelty Shop principles of comedy, and right away, I am reminded of that line that Gene Kelly said in Singing in the Rain. Dignity, dignity, dignity. Throw it out. That's not us. But what we want to impress you with is, one, be yourself. To make others laugh, we have to be comfortable in our own funny skin. One of the most enjoyable aspects of performing comedy is the opportunity to show a lighter side of yourself. Sure, we can't all be hilarious, but we all can amuse in our own way. Think about it. Second, be humble. Like any type of communication, much comedy is nonverbal. To make others laugh, sometimes we have to visually be funny. Sometimes that means looking goofy. Oh yeah, sweet Adeline, it's okay. You don't have to look pretty. Think Lucy, Carol Burnett, or how about Don Knotts when he's doing the preamble to the Constitution. Hilarious, hilarious. Number 3, be appropriate. As we all know, performances need to be customized to our audience. It is especially important when doing comedy. Not only will a poorly chosen joke or comedy routine fail to entertain, the wrong approach for the wrong audience could result in a very wrong outcome. Our nun package, we sang about the habit, not religion. No. Our reference to Viagra was avoided in our prescription drug song. Don't sing about forgetfulness or dying. And oh, don't I know, when I sang, the Lord is waiting to take your hand at a retirement home. Probably not appropriate. 4, be relatable. For a situation to be funny, the audience must be able to experience with you and get it. There are a lot of humorous situations to choose a topic that will engage your audience, keep them engaged. And last, be clever. Oh yeah, to be funny, you have to be able to look for the funny side of life. Create a plan to perform the funny, then perform it. As we move on, I'm sure we'll answer a lot of your questions. But when you're trying to create a performance, you want to make a performance that people will end up saying, wow, that was pretty funny. Where did they get those ideas? And now I'm ready to move over to Lynn Pierce. Here's Lenny.
I'm going to cover identifying and developing the subject, scenario, setting, and the story. This is, if you look at life as funny, which I think a lot of times we have to, if you're sitting and watching television and most of the commercials make you laugh, then you shouldn't have too much trouble with this. But otherwise, it can be kind of difficult. So it really helps to, when you're trying to identify your subject, think in terms of things that are either inherently funny, and those are things that are just funny by their nature, or think about things that have funny potential. And seriously, I think just about everything falls into one of those two categories. So if you have a subject that you're particularly fond of, you can probably find the funny side of that. It should be a topic that the audience is familiar with or can relate to. And if you think about some of the sets that we've done, as the one right here, lawyers, kind of money hungry lawyers, we developed that theme, and we actually use that. We use that in our first set that we ever did in 2002, and then again as an open division package in 2019. We did hospital patients, and we've done nuns and bridesmaids and ballerinas, and who couldn't find funny in those, and who couldn't find funny really also in a visit to a gourmet coffee shop or a routine with 4 different Lucys. What you have to do is you have to challenge yourself to look for the humor in things. With our lawyer medley, again, we were looking at the lawyers as somebody that, as a subject that everybody really can relate to the humor in that, because we see the lawyers all the time pushing their wares, promoting themselves in lawyer commercials on television. So one of the things that we were able to do was develop that lawyer that, hang on. I need to sit on my phone. Turning that subject into the scenario of, the scenario is to hone in, picture the subject in different situations. And so what we did with our lawyers is we took them from talking about being a lawyer to working them into a television commercial, and then at the very end, realizing that we could make more money as loan officers, and then we turned ourselves into a loan, turned this into a loan story. So to hone in on the scenario, you have to picture your subject that you've chosen in different situations. And it's an especially important step if you're thinking of funnying up a more routine subject. Thinking about the setting is important because you need to decide, are you performing for the audience and including the audience in the performance, or are you letting the audience kind of eavesdrop on your performance? When we did the nuns, we were singing we were creating a situation that only involved the 4 of us, and we let the audience kind of observe what we were doing and kind of eavesdrop on what we were doing. But when we did the lawyers, we actually involved the audience because we were creating a television commercial and we were singing to the audience. And another really good example of involving the difference, we involved the audience when we did the hospital patients, and our second song was "They'll Be Seeing You." That obviously sets itself up for "We Are Singing to You," and we actually we teased the judges on that at the very end. So in the story, in the setting, you have to decide, are you letting the audience eavesdrop, or are you presenting, are you including them in the story? If you are doing a situation where you are letting the audience kind of eavesdrop on you, you do still have to go out and acknowledge the audience when you first come out. And you do need to sort of break character when you're acknowledging the audience, but then going back into character again, of course, as you're leaving. The story is kind of describes taking this all the way through the steps of the subject, scenario, and setting. The story is the story that you're going to try to create. In our case, the lawyers, in this particular set, the lawyers became loan officers. We're going to show you the second song of a set that we did in 2003 at the very end of the bridesmaids. Cindy was really in love with the idea of doing bridesmaids. We had to figure out what kind of story was going to be behind the bridesmaids. Something that's kind of inherently funny in bridesmaids is the bridesmaid's dress. Some of those bridesmaids' dresses are terrible. So we sang about the dress first, and then the logical evolution from that was to be singing about always a bridesmaid, never a bride. And so we sang "Will It Be Me Next Time" to spoof The Bachelor. So you'll be able to see the second part of that set that we did in 2002. We are going to pass this ball along to Cindy Gazzetti to talk about packaging the performances.
Hello there. Can everyone hear me? Awesome. So yeah, again, thank you all for listening in on this, and we're just honored to be speaking with you today. So this part this section is called Packaging the Performance, and what we hope to talk a little bit more in detail about for you guys here is finding the songs, writing the parody lyrics, developing the characters, developing the visual plan, write the dialogue, and finalizing the staging and props. So this is a lot of the starting point Lynn touched upon some of the principles already that sort of filter into this, but this is where a lot of the planning takes place. Finding the songs. It's probably easier on yourself to, as Lynn said, find songs that are telling a different story from each other. For instance, if you're going to do a set with the 2 songs, definitely, find songs that are telling different stories. The songs themselves, they should actually be long enough with verses and choruses and a tag. But when we say long enough, we mean that the verses should have enough words in there for you to play with. Lynn and I tackled a song one time and we're like, gosh, this just isn't enough words and enough material to work with and tell a story and make it funny. So sometimes you just have to ditch a song where there's not enough to work with. So that's important. Look for songs that relate to the story that you're about to tell, or the story idea you have, and have key words that relate to the story. And then you can always start to use the internet to find songs with those key words. For instance, patience, we did the patience set. Well, of course, we wanted to make one of the funny topics mooning. And how many moon songs are there available in Sweet Adelines? Many. So we went ahead and ordered, I think, 5 or 6 moon songs and, started to play around with that, just for an example. Find arrangements that are appropriate and suitable to the venue and the performer. If you're using the contest stage, be aware that the requirement to clear parody lyrics is necessary with the copyright holder. Little bit more notes here in this area. Contest songs must be researched and determined to be admissible according to the diversity, equity, and inclusion requirements as well. So please take note and make sure you're not doing a bunch of work on a song that isn't going to end up being admissible. So do your homework ahead of time on the songs and you have a good start. So writing parody lyrics, where do you start with that, right? We always get that question. And I really had to sit there and think about it as well. How do you start to write parody lyrics? Where do you even begin? Lynn and I talked about this. So writing a parody is as much a visual process as an audible process. So your best way to write a parody is to, of course, as Lynn said, have ideas. And once you have the songs in front of you, start with a fresh, clean copy of the actual words of the song and look at them. Look at the syllables. How many syllables are in each line, for instance, is a good start. For instance, I'll throw this out to you guys. You're about to hear the song at the end of the presentation, Will It Be Me Next Time? And I really sort of looked at how did we write those words? And so, for instance, the real words are, will it be me this time? That's 6 syllables. Will the name that they call be mine? That's 8 syllables. My heart's beating so, that's 5 syllables. And I just got to know, 6 syllables. So if you know all this, you're going to be much better off with a parody where you don't stray away from the said syllables in that sentence, or else your audience starts to lose the familiarity that they have with the song. Makes sense? And it becomes harder for the singers to actually sing it. So just as another example here, or further that example, we changed will it be me this time to will it be me next time. We only changed one word in that line. The next line, will the name that they call be mine, became will the name that'll change be mine. So we really only changed 1.5 words in that line. The next line, my heart's beating so, probably could have used it, right? But we just happened to want to throw in another joke, and we changed it to Mr. Sorta Okay, excuse me, which became 6 syllables, not 5. And I'll throw out a little more detail in a minute. The next line was, and I just gotta know. We changed that one to looking better each day. So those 2 lines became Mr. Sorta Okay is looking better each day. That's actually a funnier joke than the original one we could have went with, which is something about my heart's beating so. Now, I wanted to highlight that all the syllables were exactly the same in that paragraph. So that makes the audience stay familiar with the song, right? And then that lets them be in on the joke. That's part of, we think, what makes a parody feel fun for the audience. They're in on our joke. We're sharing, if that makes sense. So if you do stray away from the syllable logical plan that's already there, make sure it fits in. So you can sway a little bit from syllable that's set there. For instance, my heart's beating so, we threw that in with Mr. sort of okays. The Mr., we had to even plan that the Mr. became equal with my. So we just threw in a beat before that line took off. Make sense? So I'm going to move on a little bit. Try to keep as many of the, I already said this, try to keep as many of the original words as possible. Then the audience is in on your joke, especially us sweet ad lines. We all know our songs and love them. And that's when they can, feel familiar with them and hear the irony in a little word tweak here and there. Make sure you speak and sing your words and replace the words that are more singable. Just another little example. I took out the unnecessary ands in that drug song I wrote. I mean, it's funny to have it run on and on and on, but I did end up thinking that I needed to breathe somewhere. So Lynn, I think Lynn made the nice suggestion. Why don't you take out some ands so you can breathe? Another example is the line, "A smile on my face with my dentures in place," from the Bridesmaid song coming up. That line I saw in my chicken scratch scribbles was supposed to originally be, "A smile on my face with my false teeth in place." A little bit harder to sing. So Lynn and I always, and Susan and Sally get in on this fixing as well. When we're singing them, if it's not singing well, change it. That's the beauty of, parodies. Look for opportunities and subtleties in intellectual comedy and double meanings. Man, does everyone love a double meaning, because you can hear the original meaning, but then a minute later, maybe even have that double meaning kick in and you're laughing again. For instance, one of our lines was, "Try some dancing cheek to cheek." Eek! Well, we were dancing cheek to cheek, but were we really talking about those cheeks? Because in the choreography, we had someone's butt cheeks sort of bumping into each other, which really caused the eek. So double meaning there. Another line we played with there was, "And lovely I'll be in my gown of pure white." I mean, all we had to do was repeat that, "Yes, white," and so just throwing in those double meanings is really fun to play with. And boy, does that get added in as you're going through you're practicing, right, girls? All right, what else here? So Rhyme Zone. Has everyone heard of Rhyme Zone? Oh my gosh, it's the best website, rhymezone.com. It's this little website where you can go and you can plug in all of your words that you want to find relatable rhymes. And it'll give you even the syllable breakdown. So they'll give you 1 syllable rhyming words, 2 syllable, 3 syllable, 4 syllable. So you can just play and play for hours with that. But it's just a great tool. Find opportunities for alliteration. That means using a string of consonants. For instance, Coumadin and Claritin, Naproxen and penicillin. Just that k sound helps add some interest to the line. So it doesn't have to just be a rhyme at the end of the word or at the end of the phrase. it could be that internal consonant sound that creates some interest and fun. Another line, Lynn wrote it, "'cause your tonnage is a test to my physique." I mean, tonnage is a test. That's fun. Just even pronouncing it that way can add to some comedy later on down the line. I don't know if we capitalized on tonnage as a test as the, possible, spewing of saliva and having someone react to it in the quartet. I mean, all of it is just ammunition to set yourself up for some beautiful comedy and beautiful interest. Develop the characters. Let's move on to developing the characters. This was, you can go a couple of different ways. And I think we personally landed on our best packages, maybe have us all having different characters. And that will add interest to the performance. But, highlight a little bit of variation. No two people are alike. So no two performers are alike. And this really pays off with an ensemble performance. The characters can present amusing sides that would not be standalone funny or appropriate. Example, dorkiness, chubbiness, clumsiness, Sally's blindness. We always capitalize on some of these things that maybe work with one package. We bring them into the next. Sometimes we
Susan has
try to do.
Yeah, Susan's trying to get your attention.
Oh, sorry. Sure.
Yeah, that's okay. There is a question, though, before you go any further. There was a question, is there a rule about how much of the song you can change before you have to get permission from the composer? Would you please go back to that area? It's not the composer so much.
Lynn, I'm gonna let Lynn. Yeah, I'm gonna let Lynn answer that a little bit more. But to the point, it's not a matter of the amount that you change. It's more. I'll hand that part over to Lynn. But it's not about how much of a song you change. It's more about clearing it, I guess, is the way I would say it. Well, what do you think on that, Lynn?
I think the most recent guidelines that Sweet Adelines has offered us that we have to follow is if you change lyrics, it used to be that if you change the lyrics that you would need to get an approval from the arranger. But now the new guidelines are if you change the lyrics, you need to get approval from the copyright holder. So I would say if you changed anything, you probably need to get approval from the copyright holder. If you're going to do a parody in contest, you do have to sign a statement that your song, that you have gotten parody lyrics cleared with a copyright holder. So I'm just going to go on record and say that if you're going to make any changes, you need to contact the copyright holder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, probably smart.
That's the safest thing to do. And that's, we really need to follow the guidelines of our organization. That's very important.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Answer the question.
Any other questions, Susan?
Nope, that's just the one. Oh, wait, hold on. Another one just came through from Susan St. John. Has permission ever been denied?
Well, I wasn't going to share this necessarily, but I did actually. Can you hear me? Oh, okay. I asked for permission once upon a time from Renee Craig. I was a new Sweet Adeline, and I was all intimidated. I wrote a parody called "Being New" to "It's Not Easy Being Green," and she was so funny. She's like, "Well, that's funny, but why? The song itself is so pretty. Why would you want to change it?" And I said, "Because I thought it was funny." And she, of course, was wonderful and said, well, sure, go ahead. I mean, it sounds like it's fun, but the song itself is so beautiful. Sing it the way it's written too. And I said, okay, I will. I don't think we ever had anyone deny us. We should share the story too about, I don't know if anyone knows Tom Lehrer. I love this story. I mean, Tom Lehrer, he's famous. He's the parody writer from the 1950s, 60s. We actually contacted him about his song, The Element Song. He wrote the Element Song. And we contacted him, just telling him that we were using his song and, do we need to, let him know? And so, can we have his permission to continue using it? And that we did a parody to it. And he wrote us back this hilarious letter. You remember talking about this silly, fake, legal terminology. I hereby grant Novelty Shop permission to sing my song, blah, blah, blah. He's going on and he threw on all this legal jargon. And at the end, he goes, and if you ever make a lot of money, ... send me some. So you can actually really have some great experiences getting a hold of these creative, people. They usually like to share with us. Tom Sharp, you remember, girls? He was a local radio guy and then moved to LA and has a full-time career as a radio personality and commercial jingle guy. You guys would recognize his name, but
is he the one that wrote None Names?
None Names. And you remember? Yep. He was happy to share and enjoy it with us. And he asked for a copy of our performance on it. So you can really meet some fun people along the way. Hope that answers it. And am I getting way over time with too much detail? Sorry, guys. So, all right, we'll move on. So we talked about developing the characters. Again, what I was starting to say was that we tried to do some characters that on purpose were serious, like our ballerinas, because we thought ballerinas were serious, and that was part of the comedy. But the judges' comments were a little bit of, we would have liked to have seen more characters. And the second time we did the same deadpan, you saw in the lawyer package, same thing. We would have liked to have seen more characters. So maybe on stage, it doesn't quite transfer when it's everyone the same deadpan characters. But, for what it's worth, it's your choice, it's your creation. And if you want to go with it, go with it. And I don't think that we would necessarily steer away from that going, forward with any performances, maybe just within the deadpan delivery, there's some characterization, I guess is the takeaway. Writing the dialogue. Let's move on to that. Let's see. So when you're, wait a minute, I'm sorry. I did skip a little section, sorry. Creating the visual plan. Finding opportunities for classic comedy approaches, and those are physical comedy. This is where it took the foursome adding in here and creating it, because you can have a funny parody, and if it's not physically and visually funny, then it falls flat as well. So it's almost like that was the second stage or third stage. You can look at examples of slapstick physical comedy, where as Carmen Miranda, in my Carmen Miranda Lucy, I lost my balance and I fell backwards. But we can't stop on my examples. I mean, this is my average delivery here of physical comedy. I think I'll hand the physical comedy compliments over to Lynn, Sally, and Susan. I mean, Susan, with her ability to stay in character, even while we're screwing up the pitch in back of her for 10 minutes. And Susan Gleason is stalling with jokes in character at the microphone. That's a God-given talent. Sally has continued to give in this category throughout the years, with her, exercise routine. She's exercising on this little tiny swivel plate and keeps turning around and didn't know how to stop. And it wasn't part of the act, but everyone thought it was. So we all stayed in character and, went with it on stage. Surprise! You can plan some sight gags, such as Mother Inferior blowing up. That was a lot of planning, and Susan and her sister Ginny had to come up with the gear underneath that habit to make sure that, she was pulling a ripcord, and what it actually was an upside down inflatable life vest. And it worked every time, but we even had to buy little oxygen containers to every time she blew up. It cost $15. But this is all part of the plan that needs to take place, and the practice involved. Let's see. So now I can, I do need to make mention here as well, props. I mean, using, I don't know why this is, it's mentioned here. We're going to come back to props, but let me go first through the writing the dialogue. We already touched a little bit on this, but weave jokes in, then compress it, then time it. Plan, plan minimal dialogue. We are singers first and speakers second. And we are on the clock all the time. So you need to decide on your timing and where you want to spend your time. And if it, rather than taking 3 lines to tell a story, maybe you can condense it and tell that same joke in 1 line. Remember to avoid inside private jokes that will only be understood by the quartet or half of the audience. It's much better to leave that stuff for your own fun after with your friends. On stage, you're trying your best to make sure everyone's in on all your jokes, and that'll make your audience feel great. Know how long you're supposed to sing. Buckeye Invitational, we thought we were great singing for 14 minutes versus 15. Woo, we made it in time. But the big snafu was that we didn't know that our limit was 10 minutes. Oops. So we're proud to hold the record for the largest time penalty ever in barbershop history. So thanks, Sally. And you can see, if you screw up, make fun of it, have fun with it, and put it in the act. Finalize plans for staging and props. This is where we were talking a little bit earlier, and how they will be used and transported and presented. Confirm the legality and appropriateness of the use too. So have a plan, be prepared, but don't panic if something goes wrong, especially using your props, because boy, will things go wrong with props. For instance, we were late in the pattern one year because we required 2 vans to get to the venue. Sally rolled off the stage one time in her wheelchair. Whoops. And then one of the rules is that we, as a performing group, need to clean the stage at the end of our contest performances. And boy, that was always a surprising treat for me. Because I never knew how much crap was left on the stage. But we started to try and have fun with it and make it part of the fun then. After the first year surprised me, picking up feathers everywhere. I just tried to stay in character and follow the lead that I learned from these 3 crazy ladies. I just tried to stay in character the whole time, picking up feathers. I would also say this, if you can embrace the feeling of something going wrong on stage and laughing with your audience about it, it might capture some of your best moments. Sally's cane going off and up in the air one time in practice, or maybe it was even in the first performance, but we're all supposed to do these appearing canes, and Sally's sort of malfunctioned and shot way up in the air, and guess what? It became part of the act. Here we go, Sally again, Sally's workout swiveler. It just kept turning and turning and turning on stage. And it was hard not to laugh, but staying in character helped us not laugh, at her on stage. Just keep singing and staying in character, folks. A little secret to share. The audience sometimes, as I said, can't tell what are mistakes and what is planned when you're doing comedy. So that's what is sort of freeing and easier really about doing comedy, is if you can, roll with it. Sometimes a boo-boo on stage doesn't rock your world because it becomes maybe part of the best, part of your show. So stay calm and respond in character, and it's all good. Let's see. Is that it? I think that's the end of my section. Well, as she's getting off of mute, is there any other questions in the chat room?
Nothing in the chat room.
All righty.
Oh, here's something. Wait. Here, from Teresa, stay calm and parody on, people.
Well said. Well said.
Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you so much for inviting us. This is so fun. I'm learning things as we're going on. This is great. Be self-reliant. Well, we always did things that it seemed like had a lot of props. As you can see from this picture, we had a wheelchair, we had an IV pole, we had crutches, we had Cindy's cast, which she could not sit down. So we had to have 2 vans to take us over. We had to at least let them know at the briefing that we had a lot of things. I don't know if they were all that excited about it, but they certainly were wonderful to help us. Lisa backstage, Lisa Gilkey, always just shakes her head when we come on because she knows it's a logistical nightmare for them backstage. So make sure that you do think ahead and realize, how are we going to transport these things? Are we able to do it ourselves? Are we able to have help? Thank goodness we have 3 husbands and that just were wonderful, would come and haul all of our crap to everything. We called them our bobs, beasts of burdens. And so they were wonderful. They really helped out a lot. But trying to even get into the elevators sometime to go to the hospitality room, we'd have to go in a couple of different elevators because we couldn't get the ballet bar in and all this. So you do have to think ahead. One of the things to check, if you are in contest, or especially if you're doing a show and you have props, make sure you check with the stage manager. Nothing will make a stage manager crazier than to all of a sudden things appear that they don't know what's going on. So make sure that you do. For an example, we brought on church windows one time, and we had to have an extension cord so that the lights would light up behind it. So we had to do that. If ever you need any special lighting or anything like that, make sure you get ahead of time and check with these people. Make sure you're going to realize, how are you going to get these props off stage? You got them on. Now things have changed a little bit. Maybe I'm not in my wheelchair anymore. So what are we going to do? So instead of me being in the wheelchair, Susan sat down in the wheelchair and I pushed her off. But you need to stay in character from the time you hit the stage till the time you hit backstage, and stay in character. It just does so much more for your performance, instead of taking your bow and smiling nicely and just walking off like we normally do when we're in beautiful gowns. You need to think what your character is and continue doing that. So be self-reliant, plan for audience reactions. Now, this is a really good one. Cindy already told you about timing performances. And remember, it is different too, whether you're in the open division or if you were in the regular contest. The timing starts at different times. So make sure you're aware of that. If you're doing a show, make sure that you don't if they say to you, we want you to do 20 minutes, don't go on and do 30 minutes, or don't go on and do 10 minutes. They're really counting on you to keep it as close to 20 as you can. So make sure that you time things. Our Buckeye Invitational contest that we did, when I totally screwed up, I thought it was 15 minutes that we had on stage. Well, it was 15 minutes to get from your dressing room to on stage, and including your performance. So we had like 130 points in penalties. And so, but my quartet was very nice about it. Thank goodness they didn't kick me out. So that's important too. Expect the unexpected. It's going to happen. With me turning around, I didn't know what I was doing. And then Susan gave me a push and I went flying around. So we just kept singing and hoped for the best. That's one of those things, the unplanned laughter. And you just have to go with it. And sometimes because you have timed your performance, you're going to have to step on a little bit of laughter, because you know if they continue laughing, you're going to go over time. So you need to just sort of think about that when it's the unexpected laughter. Examples.
We have a question. We have a question.
Yes. You can't see Sally.
Here,
Can you see me now?
yay! Thank you.
Sorry,
Yes.
my thing slipped down. Okay. Examples of planned laughter. Susan blowing up in the nun scene. My cane that went flying off. It was so good because then I made a really big deal of going over, and I was the old blind nun, Sister Mary Cataract. And I made a big deal of going over and picking it up and bringing it and all of that. So that became a planned laughter. Cindy falling over. I don't know how that even came about, but all of a sudden we decided that was hysterical. So that became in. Some things work so well that we have carried them through different packages. In the bridesmaid set that we did, and the very first when we came on, I hid my pitch pipe in our bouquet. And so we were just looking around, and then I just quietly put it up and blew the pitch pipe. Well, that just got a lot of laughter. And so it just sort of was like, where am I going to hide at this set? And it became fun knowing when we were going to do that. Our knee highs, we started that in our first contest with the lawyers, that it would be funny when we pulled up our dress that we have knee highs on. So knee highs became part of our act. My glasses, the blind nun became the blind most everything. And we would carry that through. And even our glasses, even if I had my black blind glasses, everybody else had different shaped, and right, we carried the glasses through. And even our logo, if you will look at our logo has a happy face with glasses and a nose also. If it works, consider ways to continue it and use it forever. You know, doing comedy, it's doubly hard in the fact that you have to try to sing well, which we are singers. You do that first, but then you add on all this other. So you do have to plan. We usually have our contest set when we get done with contest in April. Let's say we take a couple months off, but yet we're all thinking and maybe emailing each other back and forth and saying to each other, what about this? Well, what about that? And then as soon as September or August or September starts, we start with our package right then and there. What are we going to do? Who's going to get the music? Usually Lynn does that, starting to write the parodies. That goes with Lynn and Cindy. Susan and I always make sure we put in at least a word so we get credit. And then we go to the visual that maybe Susan and I take a little more care of that, and it just rolls from there. Now, rehearsal. Rehearse, rehearse, rehearse. You never can rehearse enough. And you're always going to run out of time rehearsing, but that's really important because you want to go on stage and you want to be comfortable. You don't want to go on thinking. Just like when you go on and you're singing two songs, you want to be so comfortable in it, you're not thinking about it. You can't be thinking about it. You're sure you're going to think of, oh, I've missed this move or whatever. but you really need to rehearse. You need to rehearse in front of people. You need to know where they're going to laugh. What you think is funny, it may fall dead. We used to rehearse at Susan's condo, and her mom and sister, Ginny, lived in the condo next door. So we would rehearse till maybe 9:30, and Ginny and her mom would come over in their robes and sit down, and we would start performing for them. And we always knew if we did a good job because they'd be going like this, having their robes up over their mouth, laughing and shaking. And they would give us ideas too and say, you know, keep that in. That's a good one. So try to have as many different people see your routine and see what works. Let's see, practice being in character. That's a really big thing with me. I think that if you're going to do comedy, it's much easier for you if you are acting. I don't want to be myself and be silly because I don't like that. But if I can be a character that is silly, I will continue to be in that character. If you had to be a very serious character, you can relate to it better. Think of it as you're acting. Stage your entrance and your exit. Are you going to come on like we normally do in contest, or are you going to come on some other way? Are you going to go off some other way? Just plan those types of things and make sure you remember mistakes are going to happen. They're going to happen all the time. And it's how you deal with those mistakes is what's going to make your performance comfortable for the audience. You never want to, if you miss a move, you don't want to, oh, geez, you know, just like in a chorus, you don't want to make a big deal of it or make a face. You just sort of go on, and 9 times out of 10, nobody even knows that you made a mistake. They don't understand. They don't know what you were supposed to be doing. You just try to make it look like that was supposed to happen. Like when I was going around in circles and stuff, we just went with it. An example of like when Cindy said, when we took the wrong pitch, that was me on the pitch pipe blower. And the 3 of us, we were doing nuns, and it was our closing number. And we were the 3 of us in behind. I blew the pitch, and we were supposed to start humming the song while Susan was saying, "You've been a wonderful congregation," and blah, blah, blah. And I blew the pitch, and Lynn went, and you know what? I blew the pitch again, and she went, and I'm like, what? Look, it's here. It's blow the pitch. And Susan kept saying, and anyway, did you hear the joke about the nun? You know, and she's dying out in front. We're dying backstage or out behind her. And finally, Lynn just picks a note, and we went with it. And after the performance, people came up and said, "Oh, we love that you put that bit in. We thought that was just hilarious." And we were just dying on stage. We didn't know what the heck we were doing.
Well, it was when you said, "Just sing with me."
Yeah. And you know, Susan, I said, "Just sing with me. I'll harmonize." That's what I said. "Just sing with me. I'll start harmonizing." So somehow we made it, but people thought it was wonderful that we could keep it. We should keep it in the bit. And we went, "Oh, there's no way." We were dying. Anyway, my very last thing to say to you is practice, practice, practice. We never were able to get enough practices in because you'll never get enough practices in. You want it to be perfect and you just can't. So just think about doing as much as you can, get on stage. And then the best part of comedy is for you to have a good time with it and have fun. Lenny, it's all yours.
Great. So I wanted to spend a minute and talk to you about adding humor to a non-comedy performance, how you can add parodies and jokes to a non-comedy quartet or chorus performance. If any of you remember the Quartet Accolade that I was in with Susan and Jeannie and Dodie Lamart way back, and from like the late 80s through the mid 90s, a lot of people said they loved us because we were so funny. Well, we were not a comedy quartet, but we were able to find sort of funny aspects of who we were as people, and then funny aspects of different types of songs we were singing. And so one of the things that we did when we did our outgoing package in, I think it was 1992, one of the songs that we had done a lot was Billy Joel's Longest Time, and people would always ask for that song. So we knew that people were going to ask for that song. So I wrote a parody, Longest Time, and changed, instead of singing, I don't even know what the original lyrics are, but it ended up being, we haven't sung this for the longest time. So it was all about how Susan would screw up the words and everything to the song. So you can write some clever parodies based on your life as a quartet. You can add, another good example of that is we used, Novelty Shop used, as part of our Nun program, we used Cindy's parody of Java Jive, which she became a coffee shop barista. And then Susan was the ornery, grouchy customer coming in and purchasing from her. Now, Cindy developed that concept and wrote that parody for her quartet Harmonics. Harmonics was not a comedy quartet, but this added a really light dimension to that. And that became such a favorite of Harmonics that when Cindy came over with us and we created Novelty Shop, we carried that performance and that parody over into Novelty Shop and use that as part of our Nun routine. And so we really enjoyed that. Another thing that is I think a really good example of a way to add comedy is, oh gosh, I think it must have been my quartet with Nancy and Jeannie and Sarah Fandangle. We sang a Stevie Wonder song, and so we opened up that song with the I Wonder. If you're familiar with those, I wonder why you drive in a parkway and park in a driveway, that kind of thing. So we opened up the Stevie Wonder song with an I Wonder set, which was really very popular and very funny. Another thing that in my singing with Sarah in a quartet, I started singing with her in Fandangle way back when she was in her mid-teens, and then I still sing with her now in Surefire. She's always the youngest, and so we were able to use that we were able to tease her both in both quartets because of her age. One of the ones that we used recently with Surefire is we do Black Horse, so I'm able to tease her using the joke about the mechanical bucking horse at Myers or wherever. She's all traumatized about, we're so happy she can sing Black Horse because she had a very traumatic experience growing up as a youngster with horses. And so then I would very innocently tell this story about her. And then she was okay after they pulled the plug on the mechanical horse. So there are certain things you can do like that. I'm not really a proponent of just taking a joke out of midair and putting it into a quartet or a chorus performance. I really don't think that is a good use of a joke, but if you can find a joke that you can weave into your narrative, or if you can find a way to tease a character, tease one of the members of your quartet, you see that happening a lot with a lot of the high-level quartets that do comedy so well. So you can certainly add jokes as part of your narrative, find something that's relevant. Again, go right back to the principles of comedy for how you would do that, and write some parodies for things that people can relate to and add that and really lighten up your chorus or your quartet performance. So I think we have let me answer this question. Can anyone be funny? Yes. You just have to find that lighter side of yourself. And we wish you all sorts of good luck and have fun being funny.
Curtain up, it's audition time. Tonight'll be my last chance. Please put me on that bachelor show so I can find romance. Will it be me next time? Will the name that'll change be mine? No, mine. Biological clock, I can hear the tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock. Will it be me next time? I know that I'll succeed if I snag the rich man I need. Mr. Sorta okay's looking better each day. Will it be me next time? When the music begins and the vows we recite, will it be just as I've seen? And lovely I'll be in my gown of pure white. Yes, white. Will it be all that I dream? I dream. Sometime, while I'm still somewhat in my prime, a smile on my face with my dentures in place. Will it be me? It's gotta be me.